Hi everyone, welcome to another of my little reviews. If you're new to my channel, I make videos about photography and life that are mostly comprised of my pictures. Once in a while I learn something and I try to pass it on. In this film I'm taking a quick look at what I think is a pretty special lens for the Fuji X system. And for the first time for me, I'm going to include a few video clips along with my stills. As I've mentioned before in another video, this is a lens that I've had quite a love-hate relationship with in the past. In fact, the copy of the lens that I own now is actually my third. Over a few years I have bought it, sold it, and I finally recently bought it again this year. This time I'm never letting it go, I promise. So as a bit of background, my first experience using the lens was with the X-T1 and was fairly terrible. As a combination between the lens and camera and the firmware at the time, it wasn't at all fast or accurate to focus, and I very quickly gave up using it. However, now that I have the fantastic Fuji X-T3, this relatively old lens has really come alive again. I often say in my reviews that I don't particularly like to describe the image quality, but instead just show it to you with as many examples that I possibly can. However, let's not kid ourselves. I think in this lens there's some real magic. I'll be the first to admit that I don't understand the different characteristics of a lens from a design perspective that lead to different characteristics of an image that it produces. But I do care very much about the image, and I know what I like when I see it, and I try to make that a part of my photography. You can think of a lens as a paintbrush, or the style of strokes a painter might use to render a scene. It doesn't alter the content or subject of the picture itself, but it does affect the feel of the picture, and the feel can be pretty important. Sometimes it can be close to everything. It has been reported that as one of the first Fuji X lenses, in its design priority was given to creating pictures with a certain character. I see it, I feel it, I don't want to overstate it or understate it, but there is a special feel to this beautiful lens. It's subtle and unshowy, but I think it's beautiful all the same. I particularly enjoy using the lens wide open at f1.4, surprise surprise, and that often works best when it's a portrait of just one person. Then you can focus on the closest eye and not worry too much about the shallow depth of field. When first using my Fuji cameras, the 56mm f1.2 lens was my favourite portrait lens for so long. The shallow depth of field and compression of the focal length worked great for portraits. But more recently, and by that I mean since I bought this lens for the third and final time, you guessed it, this has been the portrait lens that I go for. I really haven't used my 56 for quite some time. I guess the focal length of the 35 is considered standard, neither wide nor telephoto, and I think that this is a great focal length for portraits as it forces you to keep closer to your subject than with the 56. It maintains an intimacy that makes direction and communication a little easier. More importantly though, it maintains an intimacy in the image itself that I like. There are certainly advantages to both lenses, but right now in my life, it's the 35 that I love. This has actually got me thinking about using a shallow depth of field and also compression in my photography. There is a look that I often see with very fast, very long telephoto lenses where the background is just a blurry mush, and I've recently gone off that look quite a bit, especially when the subject is flattened by a long telephoto lens. This is when the subject can seem just like a cardboard cutout. So perhaps it isn't so much the shallow depth of field, but just enjoying the more intimate look with a less telephoto lens. At the moment my preference is for there to be some context in the background. I like it to be out of focus for sure, but it just needs to be a certain amount out of focus. In so many situations, this lens gives me exactly the look that I love. This year I have started filming weddings, and for both of these I've mainly used this lens all day on my Fuji X-H1. I've been using the Eterna profile and have loved the results very much. I would note that the autofocus with this lens seems to be better with the X-T3, but of course I'm using the X-H1 because of its stabilised sensor. The focus hunts a little in the dark, but there's no way I'd make things difficult for myself at weddings and use this lens if I wasn't pretty happy with the autofocus. So I think that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to say hi in the comments, give it a thumbs up if you really have to, and subscribe for more photography videos soon. Thanks again everyone, see you in the next one.